Good evening. This is America's Mayor Live, and once again, we have put ourselves outdoors. We've been indoors for a bit because we were traveling and we were in freezing tundra of the swamp. And then we were here, and it was kind of cold the first couple of days that we were here. But tonight is an extraordinarily nice night. Not too cold, not too warm. Today it was 75 degrees, which is about as nice as you're going to get. And of course, it is Florida, but it's also still, wintertime. So you got to be careful here.
That's right.
Um, so let's see where we start. We've been going over what an extraordinary week it's been, and it really is remarkable. I mean, we were watching his speech on Saturday, where he gave two, one in California and one in Las Vegas and one in California, or was it the other way around? I don't remember. But in any event, I was sure he was either going to sleep over at his hotel in Las Vegas, which he likes to do. He likes to sleep over in his own hotels, wouldn't you? And then come back not to Palm Beach, but to Washington. Yesterday he came back. I don't know what time. 3 in the morning. He came back, and he went to Miami. Forgot he owns a place in Miami, Doral, where today he met with the members of Congress. And I guess he's headed back to Washington now. This guy doesn't let any grass grow under his feet. I will that. Remarkable to outline for you in any way that's meaningful in terms of if you weren't here, you just wouldn't get it. I mean, he changed the whole situation in Canada in a second by driving the weak-kneed prime minister of Canada out of office. He got Mexico to agree to after first refusing to take our airplane filled with people that should go back to Mexico. He got them to gladly take it. He took the president of Colombia and revealed him for what he is: a slimy, lying, bullshitting communist moron. Because he said, we will not take any. People shouldn't be treated that way. If they want to go to America and rape people, and they want to go there and kill people, and they want to go there and sell fentanyl, they should be allowed to do it. After all, we're communists. And Karl Marx would like that. Well, Trump didn't. Trump said, "Fine, you want to do that." Hey, Secretary Besant, I think he's in there right away. I think he's in there. Secretary Besant, how do we mark up 25% tariff on those silly jackasses in Mexico? Oh, I can do that right away. We could use the money. And maybe Colombia was more. I think Mexico was 25. I don't know who called first, but I think the president of Mexico called and said, "Oh, misunderstanding. We of course we're going to take your plane. Let's see if we can help it get into Mexico. And of course you can operate on the border. And of course we're very much against the cartels." No, I don't want to see any of them right now. No, I'm talking to the president. I do not want to see any of the cartel members. No, we'll work it out with them later. We can let them do something else. The cartel members will not be on the border. I mean, and of course you can come in. That changed like boom, 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 boom. The Colombia guy, he not only changed, he's sending his own damn plane for him. He's sending the president. These guys are going to get. I don't know if you took a look at the record of these guys, you're not going to have much of a plane left when he's finished with the trip. I mean, you got several murderers, you got several rapists, you've got child molesters, and they're the ones with the lightest records. And then you got the wooskies, maybe they try to jump out of the plane. which, maybe he'd appreciate the saving of money, the president of Colombia. Well, they're back. And I'd say two countries, we'll get them all back to Mexico and Colombia. Big one's going to be Venezuela. Now, why is that the biggest one? Couple of reasons. Maybe the biggest numbers by a smidgen are still Mexico. Maybe the Venezuela are the biggest numbers. But the distribution of bad people from Venezuela is going to be much higher than Mexico. Now, the Mexico distribution of bad people will be higher than it normally is. Please understand, I try to explain this all the time. When a border is wide open, there's no risk of being vetted. The worst people come in because it's their opportunity. So if you're running Chinese intelligence, this was a 4-year opportunity to put your best spies in here with little or no surveillance. If you're running ISIS, same thing. If you're running other less known terrorist groups or terrorist groups that mean to make a name for themselves, same thing. And the more the border gets overwhelmed with numbers, and border point 11 can't handle it, and border point 12 can't handle it, the space between 11 and 12 becomes extremely open and dangerous, and anybody can come in. And anybody means the high value people, that drug gangs, cartels, terrorist groups, human trafficking groups, child trafficking groups. That's how they come in. Now, we don't do much vetting on them anyway. But if you want to avoid the vetting completely, you just come in those spaces in which, now, this is ridiculous because here, I'm going to give you the lowest number they estimate for the people that came in and checked in and were let in. That's 8 million. I'm going to give you the lowest number of people that we saw, but we weren't able to register them. Gotaways, they're called. That's about okay, 8 million and 1.5 million. Now, I'm going to tell you the three possibilities depending on which study you'd like to use, all of them coming from formerly good schools called Ivy League schools, now communist training academies. But these statistics and these formulas go back about 10 years, and with a lot of adjustment, they've been used forever and ever to try to figure out, well, let's not get fooled by the number of illegals. There are people that are true gotaways, meaning we never saw them, we never counted them. Okay. Here are the three possibilities from the three different studies that I've read. And I'll get them out again. I haven't read them in about a year, but make sure I got it right. Okay. These are the three possibilities from the three studies. One of them involves Princeton, one involves Harvard, one is a collaboration with MIT. So 8 million plus 1.5 is 9.5. At 9.5, there are three possibilities that snuck by. 50% more, half of 9.5, right? 150%. That's a double and a half, and then double. So, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to believe it would be like 22 million, but it could be. I would say let's go with the conservative 50%, right? And we're talking 15 million. 15 million people came in illegally. What percentage of them are, well, first, they're all illegal. Illegal. They are illegal aliens. That's the word in the statute. Nobody's being xenophobic. Nobody's being mean or nasty. They're just being sensitive enough to use the word that the United States Congress used when it made their acts illegal. Illegal aliens. Doesn't mean they're from outer space. Maybe they'd be better if they were. E.T. seemed like a pretty good guy. Illegal aliens. That's what they're called. Illegal aliens. Under the law and under the formulas that we have, you'd have to estimate we got about 15 million of those. Trump comes in with 15 million. He's doing a good job right away to make sure that number doesn't grow. And you got to do that. You got a couple of things here. You got to stop them from coming in, and you got to get rid of them. Both. Not easy to do. Couldn't have a better guy than Tom. Or with more enthusiasm. Have you seen that guy? He's personally directing this. They've done 9 cities already. Ted, before we take a break, or maybe when we come back, it'll be easier. I want to play that son of a bitch in Boston. That really, I mean, you want to know who caused this? He's going to tell you. He is an illegal from, I don't know where. I thought maybe Venezuela. I wasn't sure. Do you have it? You want me to take a break and then we'll come back? Okay. This is when he was arrested, correct? God bless you. God bless you.
Heard that.
Oh, probably one of our neighbors.
So as we said, all right, so we'll play that here. Apologies, where we got to pull it up. It just kind of takes us some time. Been a busy night here. A lot of moving parts.
Well, why don't we take a break?
Because I have
because Ted doesn't want to. All right.
No. I had it. It just ended up taking a second longer than I thought.
Gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro. I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
That's it, Mayor. I don't know if you could hear that, but we played it.
I think he said he's got
Thanks,
7.
Obama.
I think he's got 7. I thought he said Biden too.
And Biden.
And
Yeah.
F.
Trump. Yeah.
That would be that I would like to get sign that and put it up on my wall that this guy, I don't know if he was arrested or convicted 17 times.
Right.
But I bet he hasn't been there that long. Guy's a crime machine. I learned from Professor James Q. Wilson, the best criminologist on the planet, the whole concept of career criminals. A relatively small number of people commits most of the crime. Now, relatively small can mean millions, but we're a country of 340, 50 million. Percentage-wise, we're talking 5%, 2%, 3%, 4%, both known and unknown. So when you catch one of these guys, it's an opportunity to save lives. You catch a guy like this who is capable of murder at any time, depending on whether things go right or wrong. You're probably, by keeping him, every year you're keeping him in, you're probably saving about 400 felonies. Now, we're not going to catch him. Now, if he got caught for 17, right? Let me give you a little law enforcement. It is a science and a study. You don't get caught for most of your crimes. In fact, the odds are against you being caught. If he did 17 crimes that he's convicted of, how many did he do where he wasn't caught? Well, at least 170, at least. Depends on the kind of crime. But it's very, very rare with this kind of criminal that you have a singular, the guy went wrong one day. He needed bread for the family. So he went and beat the hell out of the grocer almost to death and stole the bread. Yeah, that's a French novel, Dostoevsky, actually, who we should have listened to in Crime and Punishment, said that if people could commit crimes because they needed food and they were hungry, half the world would be dead because people are hungry in about half the world, and they don't go around killing people. The reality is the cause of murder is much deeper in the human mind or in lack of human soul than most of us appreciate. So we got a lot of people out there that have to go back, and they're proceeding in exactly the right way, exactly like they tried to convey when the left-wing criminal apologists started attacking them, that they're going to send people home that are good people. No, no, no. They are concentrating on the criminals. They have 170,000 names. There's got to be more. I mean, there is more. There have got to be. There are more. But identifying them now is, please, I'm very tough on law enforcement because I wanted to be perfect. But this is an almost impossible task. There are no records of these people. Let's say it's 15 million people that came in. Somewhere around 7 or 8 million of them have some kind of record. They gave you a name. And they're supposed to be at a particular address until they come in for a trial 3 years from now. Do you believe what they did to our country? Between now and 3 years from now, they can do anything they want to do. And in a city like New York or Chicago or Boston, a sanctuary city and state, they don't get turned in. In fact, I don't know about the others. In New York, it's illegal. Adams is going around all worried that he'd commit a crime if he turned them in. It's not a crime, by the way. That would be completely unconstitutional. It would mean that we didn't have a supremacy clause in the Constitution. And I really don't see even the liberal justices on this issue. The liberal justices ain't so liberal because it's pretty clear. But if a New York City police officer picks up one of these guys, he is prohibited from turning him in. Why isn't that a crime? Obstruction of justice. Because we have this do-gooder limousine liberal bullshit policy, which was exposed when Ron DeSantis sent a bunch of them it was the one next to Martha's Vineyard. Sent them to Martha's Vineyard, home of Prince Obama, the summer home of Prince Obama. I am Prince Obama, trained very, very carefully in Nazi communism. Right, that's right, communism. And I'm a Christian, whatever that is, because Moses said, no, Muhammad, no, Jesus. Oh, screw it. Screw it. The guy was trained as a Muslim. On his grammar school records, it says he's a Muslim. Right? That's what it says. I'm sorry. I didn't put it there. He put it there. He acted like a Muslim all throughout his presidency. All he did is favor them. He wouldn't let us use the word Islamic extremism. He underestimated ISIS on purpose so it could take over all of the Middle East. He caved in completely to Assad. If you use chemical weapons, here's a red line. I said, well, what does that mean? You're going to use them. Well, here's another red line. Now you got 2 red lines. There's 3. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then Russia comes in and settles the problem. And Russia takes a look at him and says, okay, time to take Ukraine. We got a cowardly sissy boy here who we can push all around, and he was very well trained in foreign communism. Thank you, comrade. And then with the little extra money he has, he pawned off a couple $100 million on the Ayatollah so that he could kill Americans. Why Obama is not held to account is a tragedy. It's a tragedy. You guys know what DEI is? Everybody knows DEI, right, boys?
Oh yeah.
DEI is, let's make it simple. DEI is you hire somebody based on you want more women, you want more blacks, you want more Hispanics. It has nothing to do with their talent, has nothing to do even with their ability to do the job, which is actually inhumane. Hiring people on affirmative action, to me, was a complete dehumanization of the person and was designed to create more and more trouble. I remember in the U.S. Attorney's Office, when I took over, there were several people that weren't able to try cases, and they were affirmative action hires. And actually, my predecessor got sued for it. He hired them, and then they got angry that they weren't promoted the way anybody else was, and they were convinced they weren't promoted because they were black. They weren't not promoted because they were black. They weren't promoted because they weren't good. And you can't sacrifice cases to this altar of DEI or whatever the hell you want to call it, phony solution of race relations when you're making them worse. And then, of course, this went even further. Then it goes into all the trans stuff, and you got to have people, walking around taking their tops off so kids can get used to looking at breasts. And if a kid thinks he's a cat, you got to bring in a litter for him in the classroom. I don't know. Did they let the kid go over and piss in the litter? I mean, I don't know. This is the kind of weird stuff. And of course, the whole bathroom thing. Or a Supreme Court justice doesn't know how to define a woman. I mean, I would not do it in public because it'd be embarrassing, but I'd have been happy, maybe some kind of attorney-client privilege. I could even do some drawings for her. I'm a pretty good drawer. I one time wanted to be a doctor. I took biology very seriously. You have to do those nice drawings. I mean, I can show, I could sit like on one side of the page, we could say man, and the other side of the page, we could say woman. Then we could say, here's what a woman looks like. This is what a woman has. This is how you can tell it's a woman. See, Judge? Not so hard. And this is how you can tell it's a man. Now, there are some that are a little smaller than others, and it's a little harder. And the bigger they get, the easier it is to see that they're men. But they're still men. This is a kind of a loose definition, but it covers about 95% of the cases. If it's much more convenient for them to use a urinal, they're men. If it isn't, they're women. Not a 100% secure definition, but a lot better than Jackson, what the hell her name is? Murphy Jackson? Judge Kendall Jackson Murphy. Jackson.
Randy Brown Jackson.
Randy Brown Jackson. Was it that name? Randy Brown Jackson?
Candy Brown.
Candy Brown?
Katanji.
Oh, Katanji. Oh, yes. Very familiar name. Katanji something Brown, right? Oh, no. Jackson. Well, can we please get it right? She doesn't know what a woman is, but she's a Supreme Court justice.
Jackson.
Katanji Brown Jackson. Now, is she a man or a woman? Do we know?
She, based off of her own Senate confirmation testimony, we cannot say.
But did she check a box?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I think the classification before President Trump was male, female, or I guess they gave you a third option. I'm not even.
X.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know what she put in there.
If a Supreme Court justice wants a sex change operation, do we have to pay for it? Well, we pay.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Not anymore. But it would be unfair if you pay for a prisoner but not a Supreme Court justice. We're no longer paying for the ones in the military. Right. They cost $400,000 an operation. You ever want to know why this con job started? Same reason as climate change. You want to solve a crime? Want to learn how to solve a crime from one of the great crime solvers? I like charts, you know that. And I don't have my board is filled with notes here. I'm going to use paper, which is kind of, here's how you solve a crime. You solve a crime this way. If I were teaching criminology, this would be my chart. This is how you solve a crime. Follow the money. Follow the money. Number two, who has the biggest motive? Follow the money. Who's going to make the most? That does fit in to the more generalized one is make a biggest motive list. Biggest motive. And then try to see if you can come up with 5 so you got something to play with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So then you put in who you could do this with the Kennedy assassination. You know the one that comes out first? Lyndon Baines Johnson. Hi, my name is Lyndon Baines Johnson. You know the joke about Johnson? Remember how they say that?
I know one of them.
Oh, tell me which one. Oh, that. I'm not even sure that's true. I think he's the one who yeah,
Tried to start.
some of the people who wrote books about him who were required to do it with him. You know, did they walk out hurt? I think this is based on some of them walked out hurting.
Okay.
But you know, he also required them to sit in the bathroom with him while he was pottying, and then he could dictate his version of the book, which I'm sure didn't show up anywhere because the guy talked. I mean, he was definitely a combination of the Biden and the Kamala of his day, except he was smart. He just was inarticulate and nervous. So here's the joke. Told by one of his aides at a dinner. Lyndon was greeting a group of people from the Boy Scouts from, I don't know, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the staff had it, that they had to write out everything for him. Everything. Lyndon, you know, stand up straight, look straight in the eye of one of the whole thing is there, you know, the whole thing. Make sure you shake hands with the boy and whatever. So Lyndon's there, he's reading it. Then he gets started. Welcome to the White House. I'm Lyndon Baines Johnson, President of the United States. I am very impressed that you are Boy Scouts with badges. Lyndon, you're on your own. Don't know if it's a true story, but it has a great support for it. I heard it many places back in Washington in the 70s. After he was out of office, they were afraid to say it while he was in office because J. Edgar Hoover used to go around surveilling people and then going and telling Lyndon every Thursday afternoon who his enemies were, so that he could try to destroy their careers. And you know, this whole thing with the papers of Dr. King is and why the family is rightfully worried is Dr. King used to completely get surveilled by Hoover, who resented him for being what he thought was a communist. He did have a communist operative who was close to him, whose name escapes me, but I'll get it for you. I don't know that you could have come to the conclusion that he was a communist. It is true that the communists tried very, very hard to infiltrate the civil rights movement because they had come to the conclusion through an Italian philosopher, communist, and bum named Gramsci that it wasn't going to work. He couldn't split us on economics. The general theory of the critical fault line in society is for them money. The rich are the bourgeoisie, and the poor are the proletariat, and the bourgeoisie uniformly in every circumstance take advantage of the poor. No exceptions. They're all bad. And a lot of them all got killed. Well, they tried that in Russia, and it led to a successful revolution. They tried that in other places, and it led to a successful revolution because there was some, I guess, degree of truth in it, although not completely. But then they tried it in America for years and years, starting in the 1910s and 20s and 30s. They couldn't get anywhere. And Gramsci, and an Italian at that, not an American, but he observed America, and he was a dedicated Marxist socialist. He said, we got to work on something else here. I think I feel it. I think we can divide them on color, on race. That can become the fault line, not money. And the proletariat would be the proletariat would be the upper level, morally pure people who had no racism. And then the vast majority of others would be the proletariat. Now, I'm going to give you some magic words that can tell you that somebody's a communist, or at least we're told these words and they're so stupid they just keep repeating them. This might be Biden. How about the country is systemically racist? That's what Marxists believe about America, which is why they believe they can capture us, because they can segregate all those who are racist, put them in a category, make them slaves, and take over with the superhuman beings that are not racist. So when you hear completely unrealistic, stupid, and lying statements like almost all of America is racist, they have to say that because their whole belief set is there. And remember, communism is a substitute for religion. There's nothing particularly logical about it. It is much more emotional. It is much more a psychological illness where you got to fill big gaps in your emotional makeup. So don't expect too much rational analysis out of it. But there are key words and concepts where if you are a student of Marxism and Stalinism, and you can see where it comes from. That whole thing of Biden's, that America is systemically racist. Now, let me translate for you. That means almost everybody's racist. Now, that's not true. The country has racism, but not everybody is, not even close to everybody is racist. Now, that became the dividing line between communism, non-communism. And it worked much better because it is something that inspires guilt. It is something that inspires realistic and then unrealistic guilt, or guilt that you can carry to the point of distorting the relationships in society. And very few people have the courage to stand up to it because they don't. Some of them don't even understand what's happening to them. So, what Trump has done in wiping out in one stroke DEI, had he just said no DEI, maybe they'd cut it out, maybe it'd come back. He didn't do that. And he followed the instructions of a Wall Street Journal writer of about 3 or 4 weeks ago, who said, if you really want to reduce government, you have to not just take out the people, but take out the function, because somebody will come around and figure out the need for the people. So here's what he did. I didn't even anticipate this. This is brilliant. He said, teaching DEI or promulgating DEI or judging anything based on DEI is completely illegal. All DEI workers, all DEI programs are now canceled. and all DEI workers are suspended with pay. And as of sometime in December, I guess, the decision will be made to keep them in other forms of work. Wow. That's a solution. Maybe you don't like your solution, but that's a solution. No pussyfooting around, right? Right. So I would say that when you hear these things, try to become a student a little bit of Marxism, because if you hear it, you can tell the ones that are influenced by it. The whole thing with McAuliffe and the schools, and when he made the big mistake of saying that the parents should have nothing to say about the education of the children, that comes right out of Karl Marx. That comes right out of Engels. It was one of their second biggest theme. And then they take it one more step, which Tampon Tim assured for them. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, if your 15-year-old girl or boy happens to run away and go there and goes into a hospital and says, I want my organs, my sexual organs taken off, if the psychiatrist agrees, and if another doctor agrees, they take them off without calling you. So this raises the question, who is responsible for the child? Answer, by John Dewey, American educators going back 150 years ago, all of whom are atheistic communists. Here's the answer. The child is the property of the state. You're irrelevant after 2 years old, because they didn't trust you to remain loyal to communism and socialism, because they know at the core it's an irrational way of life that the human personality rebels against. Not out of selfishness, maybe, but out of common sense. It doesn't make sense that you get paid more than me if I work 3 times more than you and 3 times more effectively. If I do, then, among other things, we're going to have a non-creative society. That dog agrees. That dog was probably brought over from Russia.
The dog.
And he's telling the other dogs, don't be a Democrat and don't listen to this. All dogs are not created. All dogs are created equal, but that doesn't mean they get equal results. Because I'm smarter than you or I'm faster. You want to run? The idea that we're all equal is just not true. We're not all equal in the end. We may be, in a very, very philosophical sense, we may be all equal when you put all the sum of the parts together. But we can't do stupid things like you run 3 times as fast as I do when we both win. Then we are taking away any kind of judgment for performance. When you do that, you end up with a country like China that has to steal anything creative. If they were not conniving and great at infiltrating us, they wouldn't know anything. And if we were a little bit more careful in our dealings with them, they wouldn't know anything. Even now, where they're trying to lead us in AI and in computing and in quantum computing, they do it based on stealing and hoping they're developing more and more creative scientists. But it runs against the grain to be a creative scientist. The government tells you what's science and what isn't, like the government did here during the pandemic, right? You see the parallels? See how close we are? I mean, Governor Whitlis and Governor Nursing Home, otherwise known as Cuomo, and Governor Nursing Home, otherwise known as Murphy, and Governor Newscomb, otherwise known as Johnny Pump.
That's a great nickname. If only more people
Johnny
get the reference.
Johnny Pump
Newsom.
Johnny Pump Newscomb.
That's a good one.
Now, I'm not going to tell you what Johnny Pump means. I'm going to have you I'm going to have you send it into the show. And I want to see tomorrow night. I'm going to tell you how many people got it. And then tomorrow night, I will do a piece explaining what a Johnny Pump is and telling you where that expression came from. And I'm sure some of you know. I'm sure many of you are completely in the dark. But that was the early training for communists, how to exploit Johnny Pumps, because that's what they're worth. So we're fighting a really, really big war here. I mean, it really is a big, big war. And the war is not just military. We're gonna get people on here that are more learned on this than I am, because I'm repeating to you what I've read from their books and from the questions and answers that I get, and from my instincts of running a government. Believe it or not, the great war between us and China is not going to be particularly a military war. It is important for us to stay ahead of them militarily, as it was with Russia. But much more important is for us to stay ahead of them in AI, artificial intelligence, and its other variants. Because with AI, you can undermine conventional weapons. So with AI, it is perfectly feasible that you could take a subatomic weapon and fly it below, or fly it in a way that eludes every known method to intercept that plane. It is also quite possible that if you're better at AI, you could defeat that. It's really, now, we're at a much higher level. This is like going from high school geometry and trigonometry to college calculus. It's true with conventional weapons that the person who has the most weapons is probably going to win, unless there's some motivation, geographical issue, or even issue of morale that changes it. And it gets even more true when we get to aerial warfare, including the ability to deliver atomic weapons. But this war, which will require having all that, if things progress the way they seem to be progressing, this is going to be decided by who has the best artificial intelligence. And we damn well better have it. Are we a little ahead of them? Yes. Did the next 2 years predict that we wouldn't be? Yes. Is that going to change? Right away. Before a week is out, he gets a $500 billion investment in new money in IA. You know, it was to cure cancer. Very, very good idea. More important is the spending of the money on it and the development of the science, the understanding of it, the trial and error with it. The more projects like that, the faster we're going to overtake that. And really, maybe we can expend a third of the effort to 2/3 of the effort and beat the crap out of them, because this is what we're good at and it's what they're weak at. Problem is, we're like a sieve. They can take what we've got. Now, this is so damn complex that just taking it is not going to help you. You got to take some of our people, which they try to do. So that's the challenge, really. It's not just a challenge of traditional warfare, and they have a bigger Navy, and we better have a bigger Navy. We can have a bigger Navy, and they can have better artificial intelligence, and they can figure out a way to destroy all our ships, and we don't know what's happening. So we want that capability, don't we? Because with us, you're going to have a world based on principles of law. We only had 4 years when we didn't with Biden. He's gone now. And we have never been a conquering nation. Obama, notwithstanding, who liked to think we were colonists, but in his communist training, no one ever really explained to him what a colonist is. Never had the time for that, nor, believe it or not, don't get angry at me, possibly the intellect. Very exaggerated. Now, was he smarter than Biden? Yeah. So was your family dog. Is he as smart as they make believe? No way. Never wrote a note to become head of the law review. Can't find any legitimate writing just of him. When you get him without preparation, he used to do interviews in the White House with the same damn teleprompters that Biden did. And when he didn't do it, every other word was It's exaggerated. He thinks in communist cliches, left-wing cliches, which is it's the reason they're not creative. Their view of reality is determined by a priori concepts. What that means is concepts you have before you absorb the facts. If you want to be a really good thinker and a creative thinker, you have to know how to flush those out of your brain. Hard to do. Sometimes you can flush them out of the brain. There'll still be a distortion because they're in your emotions. But if anybody can do it, we can. But it's really important that we stay ahead of them. So we talked a lot about how Trump has gotten control of immigration, right? He stops him at the border now. Pretty soon he's going to stay in Mexico if he hasn't started doing it already. Made big progress there by completely the president of Mexico. I don't think anybody else is going to challenge him when he wants to drop off people after what he did to Colombia in a day. So I think we're on our way there, and Holman seems to be the perfect choice for getting the maximum number of people out and in the right order. So don't start complaining about the poor people and the nice and the good people. He's not going to get to them for a while. And when he gets to them, maybe there's a solution, maybe there isn't. But the solution is not at the expense of the legitimate American people. The solution has to be one that enhances the greatness of our country. That's our responsibility to make sure that's correct. How about Trump saying, I don't know where he came up with this one, but I believe this, have for 30 years. You're never going to have peace in the Middle East until the Palestinians are thrown out of the West Bank and the territory in Israel. 100% true. And a great justification for throwing them out because they didn't come from there. Most Palestinians, largest number are Egyptian, second largest numbers are Jordanian. Do you know who refused to take any of them? Any, not a single one. Both those countries. They want to force the problem on us, and we're across an ocean. And they don't want to solve the problem for their co-religionists and relatives because they're afraid of them. Because I think the king's grandfather was killed by a Palestinian. The king of Jordan is married to a Palestinian, and he won't let him in his country. We've got to be suckers, thinking we're going to let him in our country, or we're going to make him into a new state. And they are trained to kill us. Sorry, first president to really come up with that. Also, he's going to approve more settlements in the West Bank. That's a way of pushing them out. Go into Jordan. There's a lot of room in Jordan. You originally was supposed to be there. We shouldn't have to, Israel shouldn't have to solve the Palestinian problem. They didn't create it. But it should get solved among their co-religionists and their relatives in terms of nationality. But yes, Ted.
But by the way, Mayor, Professor Giuliani,
Yes.
for those that have been watching this show the last few years, especially since October 7th, you've talked about specifically Jordan and Egypt and the situation where they've blocked the intake of refugees. So President Trump is the first president to say it. You've been talking about it for years right
Not
here
just
on the
to
show.
say it, to act on it decisively.
That's right.
Do you know how he shook up the world when he said that basically they should be thrown out of Palestine? Wow. Now, he's not the best at explaining the whole background of things. It's going to get him a big backlash. But like many of his statements, it's a much more intelligent, much more supported statement than you think.
Right.
Like when he said we should take Panama. It's terrible. And even if you have to use military action, we should. It's terrible. Not a single one of those people know there's a treaty between us and Panama that says we have the absolute right to use military force if the neutrality of the canal is jeopardized. Just about no one knows that China runs more of the canal than we do.
Right.
And most of you don't accept the fact that China's our mortal enemy and would use that to choke us off in a second. And most of you don't remember that John Kennedy almost put us into a nuclear war because he didn't want he didn't want Russia to be that close to us.
Right.
Now, you may not agree, but that's a hell of a lot more intelligent a statement than most of the idiot suckers in the press would say.
Right.
They may not even know those facts.
No.
I bet they have no idea that we paid solely for the building of that canal. It's our canal. And as Trump said, it's our canal, and we didn't make it for China. And we have reserved the right to take it back if they use it in any way that jeopardizes us. Who explains that? Who explains that? No one, because they're a bunch of effing liars. And they're effing liars against the interests of our country. It's in the interest of our country to control that place. If we had no legal right to do it, it gets a little tougher unless they attack us, right? But we have an absolute legal right to make the judgment that the neutrality of the canal is now jeopardized by the presence of a atheistic, communist, homicidal regime. The group represented there is a group that has killed 100 million of its own people. We feel comfortable having them run our canal? I actually think that Russia wouldn't have much of a problem in pushing them out. Russia, for all the garbage, does not want to see China be ascendant, because the first country they're going to sit on is Russia. It's the invariable practice of dictating murderers and tyrants and communists to develop a large number of allies with only a vague idea of what you stand for. And then when you get into power, to kill them. Because they're the ones that are most likely going to have the ability to overthrow you, not all the unwashed masses is the way they look at it, right? Okay. Now, of course, sometimes those unwashed masses aren't so damn unwashed, and they're tough as hell, and they'll overthrow you. But they come in it with a calculation like that. For all this, everybody is equal. It's an enormously elitist operation. Everybody is equal but the members of the party who are all millionaires. Meanwhile, if that requires you to starve, it's your obligation to starve. Because a lot of these countries aren't that rich. And communist countries can't possibly be as rich as we are. They have no idea how to make money, real money, how to create capital. Our economy is so far superior to theirs that if we could just use it more aggressively rather than stupidly, we probably wouldn't have to fight a war. We did that with Russia, because we ended up with a group of very smart people on economics, not just Trump, but the people around him. Well, we have that again. I would say we have somebody that even knew more about that than Ronald Reagan. He knows how to economically squeeze the hell out of you. And they are very, very vulnerable to being economically squeezed because both economies are shaky and both economies are not doing well right now. And he is going right for that. So there's a lot to work with here. A lot to work with. So I don't know. I think it's implicit in his statement that the Palestinians, the best solution would be if the Palestinians got out of Palestine and they were relocated to where they came from, Jordan and Egypt. Now you should know, you may or may not know, but you should know that that Yasser Arafat came from Egypt. And once when he was asked, "What's a Palestinian?" he just laughed. And his answer was, "I'm an Egyptian." Palestine was a place, not a people. Always has been. And if to the extent that it's a people, it was a few nomads given that name, but they really had overriding other identifications like Jordan, like Syrian, like Assyrian. The Jews, on the other hand, for 2,000 years have inhabited that place. And it's critical to their religion. It is not critical to the Muslim religion. Mecca, Medina, Saudi Arabia. One thing happened in Jerusalem. One night, Muhammad was sleeping in the mosque which is co-located somehow or other with the great temple, and below it, the burial of Jesus Christ. So we got three religions that claim it, but it's considerably more central to the Christian and the Jewish religions than it is to the Muslim religion, where the holy city is Mecca. Every Muslim has to, at some time in his life, make a journey to Mecca, not Jerusalem, Mecca. Meanwhile, Jews have prayed since the day of the first Passover. They end it by saying they toast to seeing you in Jerusalem next year. That is the ancestral home, and it's the home that was taken from them, they believe, and it's the home to which they're all going to go back. It's been that way long before politics. The causing trouble with it is a function of trying to create a war or trying to take advantage or irrational disputes. And so I don't know exactly what the end result is going to be of all of this, but I think there's going to be a lot of clarity brought to it by Donald Trump, who, when he says something, please wait until you hear from me, and I'll tell you the basis of it, because you may think it's stupid and it's not. Like when he first said we could use military action in the canal if we were jeopardized. Treaty? The United States doesn't need their permission. If we make the unilateral decision that the neutrality of our country, the safety of our country, is endangered by something going on in the canal, we have the absolute right to take it over militarily by treaty. So, I mean, you can go distort it any way you want. If you're a president, you got to know that, and you got to know what our rights are and what our rights aren't. Even the reporters didn't know it when they were reporting on it because they were all making fun of them. Uneducated swine. You have an obligation to educate yourself about these things if you're going to come off with big, fat opinions about them. They better be informed. Well, we'll be back with some of our general conclusions and a few more things we want to warn you about just in a minute or two, Ted.
Just a couple minutes.
Okay.
Very, very
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order...
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Well, Rudy Giuliani back on America's Mayor Live. And since we are in soccer time, we're gonna catch you up on the things that you have to know to do battle in our still emerging from communism country, because the press is still communistic. So we're gonna work on that for you. Um, I think I told you this, but I'm going to remind you. Trump, after months and months of delays by feckless Biden and possibly traitorous Biden, sent the bunker bombs to Israel. Now, you can read a lot into that. Here's what I read into it. They're going to hit Iran because those bombs in those numbers and that capacity are intended to go way in the ground and take out their nuclear facilities. And why they need so many of them? I don't know. Just in case. Has nothing to do with surface warfare. A bunker bomb is no different if it is, it may not even be as good as a regular missile or bomb that an IED or that you would use, in surface warfare. So what's that there for? And why were they asking for it? So when they wanted to, they could go take out the really most dangerous and deeper nuclear facilities that the Iranians put in the ground, because they don't think that the Jewish people are smart enough to figure out how to get in there, and they are, because they just happen to be smarter than it, and much more moral and much more decent. And God is on their side, and God is against them, because they rape people, murder people. And when the Jewish people kill civilians, it's collateral. When the Palestinian people kill soldiers, it's collateral. They go in to kill civilians. They don't want to fight with soldiers. Every time they fight with soldiers, they get wiped out. In fact, that happens to be true of all of those countries. In every stand-up war, we've beaten the living daylights out of them, as Israel has. So Iraq and Iran fought each other for 7 years right before we went into Iraq and took it in 2 months. You see a difference? Reported that the daily ousters are ramping up very quickly. That means, oh, can you throw these people out? Ask Tom Homan if we can throw these people out. And then shut up. Should they be thrown out? Yeah, unless you like having rapists, murderers, pedophiles, robbers, bitter, vicious people who want to overthrow the United States or could be easily talked into bombing someone. You like that? Now, why are there so many of them? Because we opened the damn borders. When you open the borders, you increase the likelihood of getting criminals because there's less risk in coming over. Because you can come over in all the places where we do not have a border station. And when you don't have a fence, it's relatively easy to get over it. Where does the fence help? Please, let me explain this to you. I don't know that it's ever been explained correctly. So if you look at the map, I'm going to get it out here. If you look at the map of the Texas border, we're going to just use Texas because it's the major part of it. We could do the same thing with the rest of the border, but I'm going to limit it to Texas because it's going to be easy to show you. That's all. Texas border with the now subdued Mexico. Now subservient Mexico. Now, we don't want Mexico, so they just have to do what we say because we know better. Sorry, don't get all upset. What I just said is true. You really would like as your model Mexico? Yeah, I'd do well. They've really been enormously successful. This is a little bit of a shady border. It doesn't show you the places, but this is good enough. This is good enough for my purpose. So what I want to do is, do I have my long pointer? I don't. I do. Can we make it a little closer? Guys, oh, yeah, but no, we're okay. We're good. This is the Texas border. Watch. Now watch. Oh, I got it. This is the Texas border, okay? Okay. Ha, ha, ha. There's New Mexico. There's New Mexico, Arizona, okay, and then California. Right below it is Mexico, several states in Mexico, and they're denominated by these lines. There. And this is called Baja Mexico. It's really the tip of the California Peninsula heading down into the South Pacific. Should belong to us. And you can by land get there, but most often when they want to go to Baja, which is down here, it's not shown well, but it's down here, they come across the water. Okay. Now, I think, but I'm not certain, that the little dots there are the border crossings. I'm pretty sure. So here you go. 1, 2 together, 2 right next to each other. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Now, I want you to look at that. See that? Ain't nobody there. And when these guys are real busy, right? There ain't nobody there. And when you control this part of Mexico, which they do, okay, you got miles and miles and miles to search it out. You don't think they have night equipment? Well, they're a multi-billion-dollar organization. Is their equipment as good or better than ours? I'd say better. But we haven't invested what we should in electronic surveillance. So here's how the border helps you. The most dangerous form of immigration you have to stop is this. If I was going to bring in a massive amount of fentanyl or a very dangerous and important Chinese asset to spy against us, or a very important ISIS super bomber, I wouldn't bring him in here and try to get him past even our weak vetting. He probably would get past until now. We asked the Chinese 4 questions. You probably could get anybody in, but you wouldn't take the risk when there's a fail-safe way to get him in. Bring him in right here. Bring him in here. Right? Bring him in here. Bring him in here. There's nobody there. How does the wall help? The wall helps because you have to climb over it. It takes a while to climb over it. If you use modern equipment, you can alert the Border Patrol that somebody's coming over, and it'll take a little while for them to get over. You also can put you can put night vision cameras all along the border. And then my suggestion, which they have never adopted, is you place a substation every 50 miles apart with some alterations for more of them in here than, let's say, in here. Because you have the border stations. I mean, you have a gap here and you have a gap here, but these are very closely connected together. Now you got a bigger gap here. You got a bigger gap here. This looks like the biggest gap of all. So you may need more than one there. But the idea is that no border station is more than 25 miles from the border, hopefully even closer. This is based on my knowledge of how to fight fires and distribute fire stations. Now, 25 miles, when you have super fast vehicles and lights and sirens and helicopters, you can be there right away. So you should be able, with about 10,000 agents, maybe 15, with supplemental help from the military, you should be able to stop 9 out of 10 entries in the danger points. This is where the high assets come in. Remember when I did the calculation for you and I said it's either 50%, 100, 150%. Those calculations come about with studies done at MIT, Harvard, University of Pennsylvania. They're extrapolations from if X number came in, how many could come in and elude us? But we know it's happening and we're trying to, and it also is a calculation based on information gathered over a period of time of how many you find where there's no record of their coming in. When somebody is arrested and is an alien, I'm always reporting to you where they came in, or if it is reported where they came in. They don't always tell you, but when they tell you and it says no known point of entry, it means they were one of these. Because if you came in here, we'd let you in. I mean, you could come in and say, I want to murder 3 kids, and we'd let you in. And the chances are we'd parole you. But, you know, a lot of people don't believe that. And if they're really high value, they don't want to be interrupted. They don't want any record of their coming in. And they pay a fortune to the cartels. So your worst people coming in, the most sophisticated, are going to be the ones who come in the gaps. And they are in the millions. And they have to be contained, slowed down, not stopped. This whole idea that, well, the fence is going to stop people from coming in. A fence doesn't stop people from coming into your yard. It slows them down. And if you put some electrical stuff at the top, maybe disables them, maybe not. But it gives you time to react. And if you reacted over a period of time to all of them, you'd stop it. This is what they need to do. Beef up all this so you're not, paying Peter and cheating Paul, meaning the more you put there, the less you're putting in the place where they bring the worst people over. You got to have resources for both. And if you do this over a period consistently of 4 or 5 years, which is what it takes for these guys to change their behavior, they'll go find some other crooked thing to do. I'm going to give you a very simple example from my experience in law enforcement. When I started off as an assistant U.S. attorney, I learned how to try cases with 2 basic kinds of cases. The 1 or 2 by narcotics cases, where everybody pled not guilty because there was a very heavy sentence involved. And then the bank robbery case, where a lot of people pleaded not guilty because the identifications were very, very difficult. All of a sudden, I left the U.S. Attorney's Office. I went off to Washington. I then was in private law practice for 4 years. I came back to Washington. And 7 years or 8 years later, I ended up in the U.S. Attorney's Office. And my whole idea was I was going to help train my assistants and make them better trials with bank robbery cases. And having not followed this, I was completely shocked that we only had 1 or 2. And I looked at the evidence in it and I said, of course, they put cameras in the bank. Bank robbery stopped. When's the last time you heard of a really big bank robbery? We used to have 4 or 5 a week in New York, maybe 6 or 7. I liked them because I could train my assistants with them because they're easier cases than a big fraud case or a big bribery case or a big RICO case. And they weren't around anymore for good reason. The camera stopped them. So all along there, God, they have billions of cameras in China. Supposedly they have a camera for about every other person, maybe more. Maybe that's why if you see Chinese people walking around, they're always taking pictures. I don't know. They're used to it. So here, right here. So this has got to be covered. And then, what you learn is, and you can limit it more. What you learn is not all of them are easily passable. Some are much more dangerous and much more difficult. Like if we were to go down to Panama and come up from Panama into the rest of South America, you have to go through the Permian Basin, and that is extraordinarily dangerous. It's mostly undeveloped land. It's filled with dangerous animals, probably has alligators and maybe even crocodiles. And you got to get taken through by an expert, and they take money from you for that. But that's one of the more used methods of coming up from, let's say, Venezuela to America, or from Colombia to America. They go up into Panama, and then in between Panama and the United States is, I don't know what to call it. It's like a swamp, combination of all of that, but it's dangerous. And it does keep people out. Although there are organized crime groups that will charge you and they'll get you through safely. They'll they'll have the right boat, and they'll have the right equipment, they'll have the right guns, and they'll get you through safely. You want to try it on your own, you've got about a 50% chance of ending your life there. But lately, it's been used very, very effectively because there's a lot of money in it now. That's what he has to stop. And I'm telling you, they're going to stop it. What I'm telling you, they're already working on. This guy doesn't let any grass grow under his feet, I'll tell you, him or Homan. So Pete Hegseth got through. I just wanted to tell you that. And he's already.
We watched that live right here on America's Mayor Live Friday night.
Right away, he's keeping his promises and trying to get trying to keep it, trying to get the American military into being what they're supposed to be: civilized, God-fearing killers. I'm not even going to explain it. I want you to think about it. You could develop yourself. What's that DOD? You got a little picture there. I'd like to see the picture. Don't hide it from our wonderful.
What's that?
That little picture you got, the DEI, DOG, DOD, DEI. What does that say? Is that for,
Yeah,
is that
we'll add that. We'll add that.
Is that a Pete note?
Yes, it's a note from Pete.
Sorry, well, Secretary Hegseth.
Secretary Pete Hegseth. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Takes a little while, but you're right. 100% right.
Secretary Hegseth.
You see-
DOD does not equal DEI. No exceptions, name changes, or delays. Those who do not comply will no longer work here. SecDef 29, under the banner of the Secretary of Defense, Washington.
So I'm going to read you a little of observation on Trump that you'll never read in the liberal press. This comes from the New York Post. The man from Mar-a-Lago has Moscow panicking. This is written by Jonathan Sweet and Mark Choate. Cut a deal to end the war, or as he posted on Wednesday on Truth Social, it's only going to get worse. He's also said it's not going to turn out really well for you. He pointed out that Putin has already killed 1 million of his own people and maybe doesn't make him the most popular guy in Russia. I mean, he's using what, Biden did this? All Biden ever said to Putin was, no boots on the ground, no boots on the ground. I'm afraid. I'm very afraid. No boots on the ground, no boots on the ground, no boots on the ground, no boots on the ground. You can make a minor invasion. It's okay. Minor invasion's okay. Instead, he said it's only going to get worse. You can't imagine what's going to happen. You never saw sanctions like this. That's what you do to try to get control of the situation. Trump also knows he holds the winning cards. He made that clear on his first day back in office as he talked with reporters while signing a stack of executive orders. Trump's assessment of Putin's negotiating position was brutal. Putin is not doing so well, he said. Almost 1 million soldiers. There's no way to, 1 million soldiers dead is no way to run a country, Vladimir. By delivering a decisive 1-2 blow to Putin, you could get this over with economically and militarily. Economically is massive sanctions. And don't leave out the ones that bribe Biden. Number two, economically flood them. Take away all their deals, take away all their commerce. Most of the countries they make money from are NATO countries. They're all worried that Trump is going to walk out on them. And how about they don't walk out? Stop doing business with Russia. Let them do it just with China. China will dump them in a minute. China's got its own economic problems. No, they could work with the rest of the communist world if they had food. And you kids, they walk around with this Marxism is this. Don't you see the result? Jeez, half of China is a third world country, and they don't have the slightest idea how to get out of it. In Russia, they're continually having food shortages. When's the last time we had a food shortage? The Great Depression. It's inherent in the system. It's not just that we're better at making food than they are. Well, we are, but still. Trump is utilizing Cold War tactics like Reagan because Russia is vulnerable and he is delivering he's ready to deliver a decisive 1-2 punch, military and economic. Trump was prepared to lift Biden's restrictions on supplying long-range weapons to Ukraine, if necessary, to force Putin to sit down at the negotiating table. You would never have heard that from the traitor in the White House and the silly little moron coward in the White House. Ever. That's realistic. Putin doesn't want that. Putin doesn't want any, he's already cost his country 1 million lives. They don't have an unlimited population. This is not China. They actually have a problem in replacing the number of people they have. He has got to have real problems at home because whenever you're in an endless war that has no answer to it, you're going to have domestic problems, even if you're a dictatorship. And we hit them with high-level tariffs and sanctions, they'll go into a tailspin like they did before. Trump has also called on NATO members. Remember the 2% and how he got all pissed off they weren't paying the 2%? So what does he do? He's now made it 5%. You want to screw around with me? We're going to make it really difficult for you. But we'll have some real money then. Meanwhile, Moscow is with inflation of over 21%, inflation of over 10% and a 21% unemployment rate. Want to see it double? And the Russian people are not as subjugated as the Chinese or the North Koreans or if they got food problems, goodbye. That's what happened to the Soviet Union, right?
Right.
So can we? Did we play our Boston guy?
We did. We played our Boston.
Yeah, that's it.
Obama.
Typical of a Red Sox. Typical of a Red Sox fan.
Mayor, did you watch any football yesterday?
But Dr. Maria's not around, right?
No, yeah.
Okay, we can say that.
Speaking of sports, did you watch any football yesterday, Mayor?
You know I watched it.
We watched it.
with you.
We watched it together.
Don't be a wise guy. What are you trying to trap me into?
It's called a lead-in.
The Biden people do.
Yeah.
They ask you questions like that to trap you into a lie.
Well, that's a tough one.
Around with them too much.
Well,
yes, I watched.
It's called performance.
I watched both games.
I want to get your reaction
Religiously. Well, okay, I'll give you my reaction.
I mean, I was there. I know the reaction, but our audience doesn't.
Is that I won 1 out of 2. I was rooting for Buffalo, and I was rooting for Philadelphia. Now, you would say it's strange for me to root for Philadelphia because I'm a Giant fan, and us Giant fans have had a terrible time with Philadelphia. Not just playing them, but everybody has a terrible time. The city is a gangster city, and they have a jail in the courthouse, and they just beat the living crap out of each other. So it's rather unpleasant The team also seems to be. You see the fights they had. The team also seems to be like that. Now you couldn't tell who started the fights, but you know, I don't think Buffalo fights anyplace else. And having played them for years, I know the team takes on a little of the atmosphere of the city. Now, here's the horrible part. At least before the Soros people took over and it became one of the highest crime cities in America and set records for homicide, the people are very nice. I don't know what happens to them at a football game. A football game, they all become,
The city of brotherly
Muhammad
love.
Ali. They all want to box and fight. The game isn't important. It's not important enough to them. But they were okay. They were okay this time. And I would say Buffalo looks enormously balanced. And the Eagles look enormously balanced.
The Chiefs.
I'm sorry, I meant the Chiefs. The Chiefs looked enormously balanced, and Philadelphia looks enormously balanced. And I'm going to tell you something surprising. I think the Bills now. There's a lot of things that go into winning a football game. May have a few more assets than the Chiefs. I think a running game is a very, very dangerous asset in the NFL. It doesn't exist a lot anymore.
Yeah.
And you can train yourself to try to limit it, but the minute you limit it, you open up to a lot more passing. So if you the classic way when football teams were limited more to a balance between running and passing, now they just basically pass. The classic defense was stop the run, require the pass. Because every time the ball goes in the air, no matter how good the quarterback is, there's a much greater chance of something happening. Yes, fumbles happen, but the pass is the way in which you're going to get the turnover, and then you're going to get the pick six, which is very hard with a fumble.
Well, the last time the Chiefs and the Eagles played in the Super Bowl, I watched with Mayor Giuliani, President Trump, and Mr. Victor Naus. Mr. Naus, yeah.
The first lady.
Who likes football, but he indicated to me his real passion is for basketball and hockey, which I believe are two of the big sports from where he's from.
Yes, Slovenia.
Yeah, basketball, hockey. But wow, just 2 years ago. Hard to believe that was 2 years.
Game, right? Did it go?
It was a good game. Did it? It came down to the wire, and either it came to overtime or it ended on one of the last plays. The Eagles may have had a shot.
Game.
Chiefs won it. Chiefs won again last year. That's hard to believe. Last year already. We're only a year from the. And now the Chiefs again.
I think, and this I'm basing this more on the announcers than having watched the Kansas City that much this year. Although I've watched them 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, you end up watching them, right?
They're
on so many national games.
I think they're as good a team as they were 2 years ago, and I think the Eagles are a better team than they were 2 years ago. First of all, the Eagles have the best running back in football.
Yes.
Dangerous as hell. When he made that first run from scrimmage and scored a touchdown, I said to myself, for the rest of this game, that defense is going to be thinking about him disproportionately. And the Eagles took great advantage of that. Very, very many play action runs, a lot of runs by the quarterback that could have been runs by him. And
that's right.
They overplay him and not the quarterback because they think they can catch him, and the quarterback gets 12 yards. That strategy is not available to Kansas City.
That's right. That's a good point.
They're almost their best runner is Mahomes.
I would agree with that. Especially yesterday, Mahomes, you could argue, made a lot more plays with his legs and his arm.
Now, the only thing is championship teams who have been there before and won tend to have more confidence. And, football's a strange game. It's not just talent, it's confidence. So that's why I think they're going to be favored until they lose. And they got to lose sometime.
What is this, their 5th Super Bowl in 6 years?
I think it's their 5th, and they won 3 or 4.
I believe they won at least 3.
I think they won 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4 or 3 out of 5? Yeah. Well, they lost to the Bucks, I believe, the Buccaneers. And yeah, so I'll have to get it. I'll have to get the history. They lost or they played, and
they lost to the
Eagles. No,
the Eagles also. Well, the Eagles lost, as we know. they lost to they lost to the Chiefs.
That's right. That's right. And the Chiefs, of course, last year was the Chiefs 49ers. 2 years ago, and we were there with the president, that was the Chiefs and the Eagles.
Yeah, you're right.
And so
and we left the president at halftime so we could go watch it at another venue, right?
That's right.
What kind of arrogant jerks are we?
Right. Only we would
do that because we went to John's boat.
That's right. You're the star of the party then.
You were crazy.
Yeah, like what are you guys what are you guys doing here? And I think back, what are we doing here? The Bills, yes, right. The Ravens. Okay, so the Chiefs have won the AFC. They've been to 5 Super Bowls in the past 6 years.
5 out of 6?
Yes.
Ow.
And they've won 3 of them.
Oh.
And then they lost to the Buccaneers, I know.
Okay.
And then in 2022, well, no, I think you're right. I think they've been to 5 in the past 6 years.
This will be 5 or they've been to 5?
Let's see. This will be 6, I believe. So let's get this down.
So they've had 4.
Super Bowl history results. Here we go.
So they're 3-1.
3-1 or 3-2? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think they've won the last 3 though.
That's right. And they've won the last 2.
Okay.
They've been to 4 of the last 5. That's right. They've been to 4 of the last 5. This will be 5 of the last 6. So they've been to 4.
So
they won 3. They lost.
Their record in the 4.
3-1.
So they lost to the Buccaneers.
They lost to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
Of course, it's when Brady won.
That's right.
Buccaneers.
And they beat the Packers that year too. The Bucs did.
But who did they beat on? Who did they beat in the other years?
They beat they beat San Francisco.
And they beat Philadelphia.
And they beat Philadelphia. And they beat San Francisco
twice.
Yes, they beat San Francisco twice. They're playing the Eagles for a second time, and they lost to Tampa Bay. So that's interesting.
Well, they lost twice. You're telling me
they lost once.
Oh, once to the Bucs. Okay,
they beat San Francisco, lost to the Bucs, didn't make it the next year. They lost to the Bengals, and then they beat the Eagles. We were there and then they beat the 49ers last year in overtime. So now this year, wow, maybe we're looking at another close game.
Now you're picking the Chiefs, right?
Taking the Chiefs, the first team to ever win 3 in a row.
Say, there's an argument in all sports. You bet with the champ until the champ loses. Now there will come a time the champ loses. You just never know, but you stay with the champ. I mean, here's the advantage they have. Even if the other team has slightly more talent, they may or may not. They've got the poise. They've got there's much less chance that on the first play of the game they're going to fumble, whereas, with the Eagles on the first play of the game, they might be up 7-0 with Saquon.
Right.
I mean, and I would say that the best thing that Kansas City has going on defense is their coach.
Right.
Not their players.
That's right.
They didn't look to me like a superior. I'm surprised that he hasn't put together a stronger defensive team. But I mean, he himself is like having an extra player on the field.
Right.
He is smart as hell.
Right.
And he knows how to play the big game.
Right.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll watch.
And the Eagles have the best defense.
Yes.
But the Eagle, would you say that the NFC is a weaker league in the AFC?
I would say right now the NFC is weaker than the AFC. The AFC with the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, and Baltimore Ravens. I would say those 3 teams over the past 5 years have been 3 of the best. The NFC, they've been good, but they've had the 49ers and the Eagles, in and out sort of teams.
So, you have to think of that because the defensive statistics, if they're gathered against weaker offenses, don't mean as much.
Right. And you look at the quarterbacks in the AFC versus the NFC. That's a very good question, Mayor. I think the AFC does have the edge in recent years. It wasn't always the case, but in recent years, yes.
Well, the AFC has traditionally been a better offensive league, and the NFC has traditionally been a better defensive league.
Right.
And not, with great exceptions, but
Right. Great exception. I mean, the Ravens, of course, or even the
Ravens
Giants
were an exception when they wiped out the Giants in 2000.
That's right.
But the Giants, of course, won on defense against the Patriots twice, against Denver.
That's right.
So the Giants have used their defense to great advantage.
They have, and they've won more than they've lost in terms of Super Bowls, right?
Yeah, I got really upset when the Eagles beat the Patriots.
Right, because they're the only other ones.
That's another time I rooted for the Eagles. I had forgotten that. So I wanted the Giants to be the only ones to beat them.
That's right. So you're pulling for the Patriots. You're pulling because you didn't want the Eagles to beat them.
No,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right. And then Kansas City now is probably people are gonna start rival or putting them right up there with the Patriots as the best ever.
They're gonna end up with the Buffalo problem, which I lived through because Kelly was my client.
Buffalo never won. The Chiefs have won 3.
They've been there 3 or 4 times in a row.
They went to 4 in a row.
What?
They went to 4 in a row.
Yeah.
They lost all 4.
But the weird
Kansas City won't have that problem.
They kept losing. I didn't say Kansas City.
Yeah.
I said Buffalo may have that problem. How many times have they lost in the championship game?
Buffalo's having a Buffalo problem.
4 times.
Wow. It's been 4 in a row now for them?
4. They've won. Well, last night they went in 4-0 in regular season games in the last, and 3-0 in playoff games.
That's right.
So now they're 4-0.
So they've lost to the.
So now Buffalo is having the same problem they had with the Super Bowl with the playoff game.
You're right.
And they have a great quarterback again.
Oh man,
like Kelly was a great quarterback. Jim Kelly was as good a quarterback as they had in that era.
Yeah, you're right.
And he was perfectly capable of winning the Super Bowl, but he couldn't do it.
And now you got the same problem.
And his best chance was the first one when
Scott Norwood
beat the Giants, but for
the missed kick.
One might say, but for a kick, but the Giants could have always scored again. It would have tied the game, by the way.
With a lot. Oh,
would not have won the game.
Norwood. That's an all New York. Well, not really an all New York Super Bowl because the Giants play in New Jersey.
The Giants would have had a minute or two to come downfield. They had a very good field goal kicker. They had now they weren't. Now that was not Sims. That was Hasselback was the quarterback. Phil Sims got injured during the season, and Hasselback came in his first game. He was terrible. And then he turned out to be like a star quarterback.
Yeah.
For only one season.
Wow.
And he had one advantage over Sims. He could really run, but he didn't have. Sims was a. You almost couldn't take him down. Sims would throw with 2 people on him.
Yeah.
He was sort of a.
Phil Sims was the man.
A Terry Bradshaw quarterback.
Right.
I mean, Terry Bradshaw, of course, makes fun of it and all, but he was one tough son of a bitch.
Right.
I mean, 3 guys could be on him and he'd push him away and throw 50 yards. Sims was like that. Believe it or not, so was Eli Manning. Although Eli Manning didn't look it, Eli Manning was very, very strong. I have a picture, which I got to get back because they seized it, right? No. I have a picture of Manning throwing the pass that was caught on the helmet.
Right.
But you see Manning throwing it, and there's a gigantic Patriot. Dr. Maria knows who it is, who has his arm.
We've seen
like
that.
This.
Right.
And he throws the ball 50 yards with this 290-pound lineman holding his arm back.
Yeah.
Because people didn't realize looking at it, because he was tall and he appears thin. He is tall and extraordinarily strong. I mean, you couldn't injure him.
Right.
And he was a quarterback that got hit a lot. You want to show that play? You want the great Manningham play?
Yeah, why not?
From
why not, right?
Giants are wearing white uniforms. They wore both times they wore white uniforms for luck. We were talking about luck the other night, and
almost picked it off.
But they're fortunate that Samuel did intercept that one. Pressure from Thomas off the edge. Eli Manning stays on his feet. Airs it out down the field. It is caught by Tyree.
Oh, Tyree, not Manningham. What did I think of?
Inside the
Manningham was the number
25
one.
and a timeout taken.
Tyree was the
Oh my
backup.
God. This ball's thrown and
Now, let's
Tyree
go
just
to the
goes
end
up
because
for
I
it
think
like a
it's
basketball
the
player.
bar.
Harrison trying to knock
Catches
it down.
Who the next season shot himself in the foot.
There's touch, but
We were at 9-0 when he
Down
shot
at 11.
himself in the foot. And
Manning to the sideline, complete where he had to get the first down before going out of bounds and being able to stop the clock. Great play.
who was that? Manningham?
Manning lobs it. Burris
There it
alone.
is.
Touchdown, New York.
It's right. Touchdown, Burrows. Career interrupted by shooting himself accidentally in the foot with an illegal gun, but partially illegal. He had a license for it in Florida, and he didn't realize he needed one in New York. And Bloomberg immediately said he's got to go to jail for a year. And I said, I wish like hell Bloomberg were a football fan because you don't mess up a Super Bowl season. Now, he was injured. He shot himself in the foot, but he would have been ready for the Super Bowl. He'd have been ready for the playoffs and the Super Bowl.
But he was in jail
But he's in,
for confinement or something.
oh, and the league, of course, suspended him because they indicted him, and it was just unfair. I think I don't even think it mattered if his foot was all that guy had to do. That was a really a great pass, and he was wide open.
Mm.
But his real strength was he was 6'6" or 6'7".
Eli?
He was the height of more of a tight end,
Yeah.
but he had the speed of a wideout,
Okay.
and he had the hands of a genius. He was constant. He was the guy you'd want to throw the Hail Mary pass to. He'd go up above everybody like a basketball player and grab it. Now, he had been a star with the Steelers.
Right.
And the Giants always felt they never had the right pass receivers for Eli. But Eli and he had played together as young men in Florida, and they knew each other, and Eli really wanted him. And once he got him, all of a sudden the Giants were close to unbeatable. So losing him was very, very tough. Wow. And the real problem for the Giants, you want my analysis, they'd have won 2 more Super Bowls if they had gone out and gotten the right offensive lineman. It was a tragedy what they did to Manning.
Mm-hmm.
Manning would go into the games against the Eagles, and he might have been sacked more in one game than Brady was for the whole season.
Wow.
But here's what worked out well for him.
Yeah.
So he was used to it, and he was playing against great defenses. A lot of the credit to those Patriot teams with the defenses.
They were very good defenses.
And they would give him a hard time, but the Giants would give Brady a much harder time.
Right.
I mean, for some reason, the Giants had his number.
That's right.
To drive him nuts.
Right. Well, we'll be watching, and it should be a good matchup. I'm excited for it. You're excited for it. We'll see what happens, and it'll just be another.
When is Robert Kennedy going to be? When is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. going to be up for confirmation? Because we want to see that.
That's right. So that is also coming up.
Is that tomorrow or Wednesday?
It appears. Let's see what's going on. So Wednesday. He's coming up Wednesday. That's right. So you got a camera on.
I know. I finally figured out how to use this gimbal. I'm so proud of myself.
So Wednesday it is, Mayor. So maybe we'll sign off, and
we're going to sign off now.
Tomorrow, same time, same place.
We're going to sign off right now. I don't even know what I'm looking at here. It looks different. Okay.
I think we were filming on another camera there. So thank you for joining us. It's the fastest 2 hours on the internet.
What a strange thing here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I can now see me.
Yeah.
I can see me here. You know what they allow you to do with this? If you have two iPhones,
Oh yeah.
you can sync them, and then you can watch it in this iPhone, and then you can use the good camera on the other side and adjust it from here. So you don't have to be dependent on the weaker camera in the front.
Well, that's interesting.
I'm thinking of doing some of those to-do reels. You know, like they say, how to use a Black Magic Pocket 4. Not that I could do that yet because I'm still learning, but I could do it with how to use the iPhone for quality shooting. I could do that.
It's a new gimbal.
Yeah. Well, this is
I thought that was the old gray one from
no,
it.
this is a new one. This is a new one. We have 2 others, and Stephen has 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of. Maybe we could do it together, Stephen, and compare the gimbals.
Yes.
And this way, help people. What do you like better? This one is higher. This one's lower.
Which gimbal is better?
I don't know.
I wonder how. We'll see how it does on. We'll post that to your channel and see how many.
Also,
we'll
when I
get 100,000 views.
and I read those a lot. Those it's not clear. But I mean, I don't want to help one product. There is one that is considered the best. I think you know which one.
Well, for those interested, we'll do a special video on video accessories and equipment.
But I found
But for
that
the-
one more difficult to. I find this one for simplicity of use. Like all of a sudden you want a shot and you want to put it all together. You'll get this put together faster than any other. That's the nice part of it. Let's see if we can get. Let me see if I can get. I'll get some money for this picture. All the women will want. I'm going to take a picture of Ted here. All the women will want this picture. I know that.
While you do that, I'll bring up some videos.
What are you going to do?
Look at a video from Daytona.
From Daytona.
Yeah. Yeah. You were invited. Maybe
Yeah. Did you go?
Yeah. You would have actually loved it.
Did you like it?
Yeah. We had great access, so I was a little spoiled, but I did enjoy it, and maybe we'll play those videos tomorrow, and
There he is.
we'll go from there. So, all right, maybe we sign off, Mayor, and we'll get some of these videos for next time.
Okay, let's sign off.
Yeah.
Well, I'll stop playing with my phone and wasting your time. Tomorrow we'll be back and we'll see what's happening with Robert Kennedy and the rest of the nominations, because it's about time they put this damn administration together and I mean, it doesn't seem to stop them, but it would help. Right. Think of how much more he could get done if they would stop interfering with him. You made the right choice, huh? Hope you listened to us and you made the right choice. He's not disappointing you, right? He actually even goes to places where people are hurt and tries to help them, unlike the son of a bitch that was there who only cared about himself. Wouldn't even visit his granddaughter. What a creep. I wonder if he's collecting some of the money that was held up in offshore accounts now.
Well, somebody is on his behalf. He's not collecting much of anything these days. Maybe some dust.
Yeah. They wouldn't send it because he gets cheated. Here, Joe, here's your $1 million.
Yeah, he ain't collecting.
What's 100?
Yeah.
They can't give you $1 million bill, don't you know?
Goes back here.
I wanted enough of my ice cream.
Too funny. That's sad.
All right.
Thanks, here.
Like my shirt tonight?
Yeah, let's zoom out on the shirt over here. We'll show it off.
Lucky we didn't have the big flag background. I look like part of the flag.
Yeah.
Giuliani's been embossed in the flag.
There we go. All righty.
Well, we're going to be back. We want you to pray for the people that are at war. Pray that we get these wars over with. We're really in useless time in the war in Ukraine because it's not going to affect the outcome. A little bit more territory for the Russians, a little more territory for the Ukraine, but lots of people dead. And really, I think Trump is beginning to lose his temper. Got kind of testy with Vladimir, and the jackasses in Russia said, well, you can't talk to him that way. Like, hell, you can't. Not when you've got 3 times his military power. And he knows it for all his bullshit. He knows it. Okay. Pray for the people of Ukraine. Pray for the people of Israel, who Donald Trump referred to as our best friends or our great friends, the state of Israel. When have you heard a Democrat say that? Last person I heard say that was Ronald Reagan, because he used to say, that's why we support them. They're our friends. It's so nice to see that. Our great friends, the state of Israel. We'll accomplish it with our great friends, the state of Israel. Okay? And we care deeply about the people of Ukraine that have been horribly dealt with by their government, by Russia. And I got to tell you, these are educated, good people, the Ukrainians, really good people. They don't deserve it. Well, nobody deserves it, but I guess when you get to know them, you feel it more. Pray for the people of the United States. And next time, let's have even more that are wise. But you created enough wise ones to help us, God. So thank you very, very much. God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are